The Brundles, aka the lake. The pond is an interesting and puzzling item in the Fromville. What seems to be a man-made lake next to the colony house is treat almost too good to be true. Seemingly 10 feet deep, with an old mamdy wooden dock attached, this airy, murky lake is often enjoyed by the free spirits from the colony house for a day of escape. To quote the late Father Kotri, "What is the chance? A place like this exists, in a place like this." One might see something like this and think nothing wrong with it, but in the world of From We Know There's a Catch. We were first introduced to the lake when stressed out Julie was making a list of all the people back in the real world that she was sure was looking for her and her family. This is also the first time we hear mention of the grandparents. If you want more information on them and what role they may play in S3, check out my video, Who Are the Grandparents? Wanting to help, Fatima goes and tells Ellis that they need a beach day. When they get to the lake and everyone is having fun, Julie has an airy look on her face. And there's this weird shot when she's left alone after Ellis grabs Fatima, takes her to the lake, and it looks like she literally has chills. During that scene, I originally thought a long black hand was going to rise out of the lake and take her under. The next time we hear about the lake is after Elgin arrives and he asks if there is any water around. Now, knowing what we know about Season 2 and the finale, he has a fear of water. Maybe he said this to make sure he stays far away from it. But on the show, he did the opposite. He went to it. Elgin's fear of water is called aquaphobia, different from megalohydrothalassophobia, which is a fear of large underwater creatures, and also different from thalassophobia, which is an intense phobia or fear of large or deep water. While Fatima and Elgin are at the lake, Fatima says, "This place was calling out to us, but only some of us were listening closely enough to hear it." And her next phrase was equally interesting as well when she said, "People have obsessed over these things. They've compared and picked it apart. It didn't tell us anything we didn't already know." What did Fatima mean? Who were these people that obsessed over it? Hello from fans. Welcome to the Movie Guru page, and on this week's video we are deep diving on the Brundles, also known as the lake. What is the Brundles? The man-made lake not too far from the colony house is called the Brundles, and there's two ways to define it. The English dictionary defines brindle as something excellent or impressive. In this capacity, we can understand why Elgin was drawn to the water initially, but if you look at it in another way, brundle means the act of vomiting a thick, viscous liquid in front of a crowd of people, which Elgin did as well on his first scene in Season 2 episode. The Brundles, seemingly a weird name for a lake. Even the way Fatima told Ellis they needed the Brundles was in third person, as if referring to a person or thing. There is also some Facebook groups and Reddit theories that the name originated from the character Seth Brundle, played by Jeff Goldblum in the movie The Fly. There are two versions of The Fly, and the scientist in the 1986 Cronenberg movie The Fly transformed into a fly after an accident during a teleportation experiment. The movie generated one of the most famous horror genre taglines, "Be afraid, be very afraid." The transformation of Seth Brundle into a fly made me recall when Jasmine told Mustache Dude, "I wasn't always like this." Maybe Brundle is a clue pointing at the monster's transformation into monsters. Maybe the creatures were once something else, either human or alien or whatever, but they transformed into monsters. Maybe some of them, like Seth Brundle from The Fly, are disgusted by the transformation and don't want to be monsters any longer. Also, there is a game called The Brundles, which is a remake of an Atari game called Lemmings. The objective of the game is to guide a group of anthropomorphized lemmings through a number of obstacles to a designated exit. To save the required number of lemmings to win, one must determine how to assign a limited number of 8 different skills to specific lemmings that allow the selected lemming to alter the landscape, to affect the behavior of other lemmings, or to clear obstacles to create a safe passage for the rest of the lemmings. Could this be a reference to what is really going on with From? Throughout Season 1 and 2, there have been a ton of references regarding lakes that may or may not be connected to the colony house lake, the Brundles. These references are Elgin, his calling and being drawn to the Brundles, him talking to Julie outside of the empty, and him being drowned by the mysterious witch. Also, Lake of Tears, is this the Brundles? What other lake could they be referencing? Continuing with Elgin, there are two scenes, one of Elgin drowning in the bathtub and then him being drawn to the lake. Are these two connected? It would seem that Elgin has something connected to water. The way the episode played out, it would have seemed that whatever he was trying to remember in his dream was connected to the Brundles, because it was the first thing he asked, if there was water around there. It has been said that sea sounds are a naturally calming veil of noise that soothes and relaxes the brain, allowing people with difficulty to relax and even sleep. We don't know if Elgin suffers from these sleeping problems, but he was sleeping when we first see him in Season 2, Episode 1. Here, Elgin has his conversation with Fatima. Elgin asks why they call it the Brundles, and Fatima responds with, "It was called that when she first got here, but the catch to this was Fatima never told him. How did he know what it was called?" Elgin alluded to not answering when she asked how he knew, but she knew he was the one from the bus, and supposedly had a vision and put the two together. Fatima explains there is all type of strange things that happen in this place. Fatima said the one who came up with the Brundles was someone named Nadia. So far, this is the first we've heard of Nadia, and there is no other talk about her. We can only assume she met her fate at the spiky fangs of one of the nightmare creatures. Fatima explained that Nadia Siad. This place was calling out to us, but only some of us were listening closely enough to hear it. And her next phrase said, "People have obsessed over these things. They've compared and picked it apart. It didn't tell us anything we didn't already know." Takeaways from this sentence are, who was listening, who obsessed over it, and what do you already know? Did she mean herself and the rest of the colony house, and what was there to obsess over? If we look to define this, we can search to see if there are any witches, Vikings, or fae that worship oceans or lakes. According to our research, information says rivers, lakes, ponds, seas, and oceans all have immense magical powers. This is mainly due to the fact that water is a necessity of life and should be considered sacred, looking at each one individually, according to the Viking or Norse myth. Noken is a dangerous fresh-water-dwelling creature. The Nok plays a fiddle to lure his victims out onto thin ice on foot or onto water in leaky boats, then draws them down to the bottom of the water where he is waiting for them. The Nok is also a shapeshifter, who usually changes into a horse or a man in order to lure victims to him, and Ran is a Norse goddess of the sea, who collects the souls of those who drown in her net. According to witchcraft, water is one of the 4 classic elements, one of the cardinal directions in Wicca. Water witches set up a water altar and connect with water spirits, as well as an elemental witch who bases her practice on and draws her power from the elements: earth, water, fire, and air. According to the Fae, there exists undines also known as water nymph or mermaids. These are almost invariably depicted as being female, which is consistent with the ancient Greek idea that water is a female element, and these are usually found in forest pools like the Brundles and waterfalls. Some have been known to have a beautiful singing voice, are sometimes heard over the sound of water. The group contains many species, including Nereides, mermaids, and potomides. All these are viable options of what tried to drown Elgin in the tub, and clues to help us solve what is really going on in this mystery of Fromville. Other mentions of the water or lakes were Boyd and his boat, Ethan and the Lake of Tears. Ethan said he saw the Lake of Tears. in the RV. Ethan said he saw the Lake of Tears when wakes up from having the pole removed from his leg. He said he saw drawings and it pans to Victor's room where he has all of his drawings up on the walls. Ethan then says he saw his whole family in the dream, but then he says there was this huge spider that came down from the ceiling. This happening in episode 2, fans and watchers did not know about Sarah, even though we seen her in the opening scene. There is a deep theory that Sarah is the spider due to her Black Widow ways of killing everyone at the clinic. Another connection is our ever-loving Sheriff Boyd and his boat. Even though we have not seen Boyd at the Brundles, we know that from Season 1, flashback Boyd's retirement gift was a boat and the keys were given to him by Abby with the words, Boyd as in reference to his name Boyd. The connection with Boyd, his boat, and the ocean could have manifested as a fear of him never getting to actually see his boat or any ocean again, and the lighthouse and boat horn could have been from his fears during the Season 1 Episode 10 finale, since we know fears can become reality in this place. Another connection, the water, is the Great Flood. Throughout the Season 1 and 2, Victor had drawn a few pictures that seemed to be foretelling the future. We do not know if this is because he is always creeping around watching things from the distance or there's voices telling him what to draw, like with Sarah when she drew the chocolate bar logo on Father Catri's stash. In Victor's stack of photos, there is a picture of the town flooded, people standing on their roofs and underwater, and you can only see the tops of the houses. He also has drawn a picture of a snow globe that could be either a blue sky or filled with water. There are no mentions of the Colony House Lake, but knowing a lot of what we see on from is connected, this could be as well. There is also a drawing that has no information, nor has it been mentioned on the show. The drawing is what looks like a floating island hovering above an ocean with a lake on one side. This image was shown with the rest of Victor's drawings, but flipped through it is hard to get a clear image, if this is indeed where they are at. Does this support the pocket dimension theory mentioned by Dale at Fatima's 1-year anniversary party at the Colony House? If they are on an isolated floating island above what looks like water, could the Brundles be connected? Or is it one of the 9 realms of the Yggdrasil in the Norse mythology? The Yggdrasil is an enormous ash tree that connects the underworld, Niflheim, the earth, Midgard, and the realm of the gods, Asgard. If you look at both images, they look very similar. If you want more information on how the Viking mythology connects to this show, please go look at my earlier video where I explain the connection in my Talismans Decoded video. The next connection to water, and possibly the Brundles, is the name of Christie's clinic. Since Season 1, Reddit fans have been trying to figure out what the wording is on the outside of Christie's clinic. There are multiple shots of letters above the door. So far, fans were able to make out the elementary high school clearly, but unable to make out the first word and name of the school. A good guess on Reddit was speculated to be East or West Falls High, so this could mean a water source waterfall nearby if that is the original area where the school was. The random architecture patterns clearly point out to different eras of building. The diner is from the 1950 to 60 era, the cars from 1978, the church seemingly built alongside the tower and could be late 1800s. The Colony House is a Victorian-style house, British architectural style. They originated during the reign of Queen Victoria in 1837, 190. The townhouses from the 1960s and clinic being the most modern from late 1970s. The last connection to the lake is our favorite contact emergency services bus driver, Bacta. Bacta connection Brundles connection is there is a religious connection to the Lake of Tears, Bacta, and Fatima. The Lake of Tears is associated in some religions with the Lord Shiva, and so is the name Bacta and the name Fatima. Lord Shiva shed tears that formed a pond when he was grieving for his dead wife. Bhakta is a common name in parts of India and means devoted. From watching season 1 and 2, we know that the show is deep and everything has a meaning, and one, if not all, could be the clue we need to figure out what all this means. So what is the Brundles? Is it alive? Is there something just below the murky waters? Is there strange energy calling out to the residents? Is Elgin connected to it? Is he behind everything? Did he really get drowned? Of course, more questions lead to, well, more questions. But that's what we love about the show. On behalf of the Movie Guru and Movie Guru Media, thank you for watching this breakdown. Please remember to like and subscribe to be notified for my next video. Of course, we'd love to know what you think, so let's discuss in the comments.